Al, we have some very different things to talk about this week.
Yeah, no joke.
Things that just go from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Both things that I like, though.
True, you're not wrong. We got some Otome, we got some other stuff. All sorts of things happening this week. Here on episode 202 of the Season Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, manga. Hello. I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello. Not the Queen of Otome? Come on.
Sorry, yes, you are the Queen of Otome because we are talking about some Otome this week.
Otome.
So we will, of course, be updating Al's official ranking of Otome.
Mm-hmm.
As per the contract that we did when we first did this ranking. We were bound and legally have to do this every time.
It is true. Also, it's just fun.
Also, we're going to talk about some Zelda games we played recently that are strange.
Yes.
To say the least. Because they're just, you can't play them anymore.
Nope.
Except you can, but not
in their original format.
Not in their original format, yes. That's what we're going to start with today. Yes, we're going to hear some owl noises.
I had to remove a kitty.
It's like always got to remove a kitty. So yeah, we played some Zelda games for the Super Famicom.
Mm-hmm.
That also utilized the Satellaview.
Ooh.
The fancy peripheral that was like sort of internet gaming for the Super Famicom, but not really.
It was an attempt.
It was an attempt, yes. Just like SegaNet was an attempt.
Mm-hmm. And the thing that was in the 80s that was an attempt, but it was not good. I forget the name of it.
Essentially, Satellaview was like almost, in a sense, like appointment television for video games.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that it was more like a TV, and that like you had to be in front of the console at a certain time in order to catch it.
Mm-hmm. They would air these on specific dates, and that would be like, oh, well, you're gonna get this game on this date. That's what we're airing out. You have to be at this specific time in order to do it. And if you miss that window, you're SOL. They would also like do reruns of these as well later on. But like, yeah, for the most part, it was just like, hey, make sure you're here on this date, this time, and then you'll be good to go. The Zelda games in particular ran from 1995 all the way until May of 2000.
That's a good run.
That is a long run. A lot of these, they only did 3 games. A lot of them are just reruns, specifically of the Satellaview version of Link to the Past, which doesn't really do a whole lot differently than just play Link to the Past.
Right.
So like that one's like the least interesting of the 3. But we did check out the 2 that are actually like different and have like, some intriguing qualities to them, we'll say. The first one they put out in August 95 was BS Zelda no Densetsu. The BS standing for Broadcast Satellite, not the curse word. So this is essentially Broadcast Satellite, The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting thing that they did as the first Zelda Satellaview game, because essentially it is a Super Famicom remake of The Legend of Zelda.
Yep, the original one.
Yes, original Legend of Zelda for the NES, which is wild to think.
It is very wild.
Like, it looks great. You get to play as like, a character that you want to choose and all that sort of stuff, but like it's basically The Legend of Zelda.
Yep.
But in 16 bits instead of 8.
Using resources from Link to the Past.
Yes. Obviously, because, these games came out well after Link to the Past came out. They were able to do that sort of stuff as well. The fun thing about, like, the Satellaview games as well is that, like, they would also stream in, like, vocal tracks along with the game. So, like, you would have, like, people talking to you in your video game without having to have CDs and all that sort of stuff, which is wild to think.
Voice acting.
So they had voice acting and everything. This Wikipedia article says that BS Zelda no Densetsu became the world's first integrated radio game.
Ooh.
And it was also the first time that the Zelda title released by Nintendo. very key point there, utilize spoken dialogue. Because
Ah,
the CDI games would have been the predecessors to this.
correct. But
Those are Nintendo games.
they are not Nintendo games, and they are disasters.
That is true. So they first started using or airing this on August 6th, 1995, and it ran throughout all of August weekly. So the 13th, the 20th, and 27th. 4 episodes. Essentially, you'd have, I think, like an hour of playtime to get through your specific chunk you have to get through and everything. Then they did a rerun later in 95, 3 times in 95, 1 time in 97, and then some other times in 96 as well.
How would they even like advertise that it was happening?
Probably through like magazines,
That's fair.
in-store advertisements, commercials. I would assume that would be the way they like would tell people, hey, this is what we're doing. Make sure you're around the Satellaview to see what's up.
That's valid.
Mm-hmm. Satellaview also was the thing that like Nintendo partnered with like a specific company in Japan that like does not exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So like that makes the way like the reason like why a lot of these games have never like been re-released kind of iffy, because like who officially owns the rights to these? Because Nintendo developed them, but they were published by this other company. So it kind of could be very bizarre to figure out. Also, these games were made by Nintendo R&D 2, which is the company or like the department of Nintendo that was behind like making the Famicom and the Super Famicom.
Mm-hmm.
They made games occasionally. And by occasionally, I mean like very rarely. Like they put out the ports of like Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. on the NES. They did NES Open Tournament Golf. They did the first game directed by Aonuma, like in '96 for the Super Famicom. Then they did the Satellaview games, and then after that they did like ports of Mario Brothers and then all like the Super Mario Advance games for GBA. So like this is obviously not like a big game development side of Nintendo, but it was mostly just like, hey, we're going to make a bunch of like hardware and then occasionally dabble in some of this stuff over here. But yeah, let's talk about some development of this game, or of these games in particular, of these Zelda games.
Okay.
So you can get a little bit more of a understanding of how these games were played, because they are very strange. From the earliest days of the Satellaview, the intention was to provide an opportunity for players from Kyushu to Hokkaido to enjoy two-way communication and involvement with a communication system allowing multiplayer net play. That sounds like a 1995 way to describe the internet for sure.
Yep.
While the earliest broadcasts for the Satellaview included solo play games and strictly time-linked sound-link magazines that gave a sense of the player's direct temporal connection to the broadcasting center at St. Giga, Nintendo's goal of simultaneous involvement between it and amongst players was thought to be lacking. For this reason, Nintendo began sponsoring a series of student networking projects to develop a network game that would let home consumers interact with each other over the satellite broadcasting system. The result of the networking project was the world's first integrated radio game, or sound-link game, BS Zelda. As a programming project, BS Zelda was considered by students to be exceptionally difficult due to the strict quality control imposed by Nintendo. The game was to have no interactive lag and no programming bugs of any kinds. Apparently, they didn't get the memo that Link to the Past has bugs and stuff.
Yep.
The project went through at least 2 beta versions prior to release. On final release, the game was divided into 4 episodes, each of which would be available for download only during a narrow 1-hour window. Simultaneously streaming SoundLink vocal files would be broadcast to players to provide an expanded, fully orchestrated musical score as well as plot narration. These vocal tracks are far too large for the 8M ROM capacity of the Satellaview. However, as streaming files, they were only temporarily stored as RAM, which was then overwritten as the game progressed. Although players would not be able to play a true multiplayer game as only one player could be displayed in the overworld at one time, the goal of a sense of interplayer community was achieved by linking all BS Zelda players to a common real-world time frame, by making in-game references to the idea of other players, and by including a game score and password system that allowed the publishing of ranking tables and the competition of players against one another for prizes awarded by St. Giga. The serialized structure, together with the structure of the Zelda franchise, was intended to encourage the Satellaview's sales and viewership and to establish fan loyalty. First announced during an early July 1995 SoundLink magazine broadcast of Hikaru Ijuin's King of Summer. The official BS Zelda pre-release party was hosted by Hikari Ota and took place during the August 3rd, 1995 Soundlink magazine broadcast of Bakusho Mondai. And the first episode of BS Zelda was released on Sunday, August 6, 1995, with new episodes broadcast every subsequent Sunday through the 27th. The game was rebroadcast on at least 4 subsequent occasions as reruns through the lifetime of the Satellaview. And then if you won, you got like access to a casino game. Because that's the thing you want to have. There's also some weird stuff that they talk about where like this has like 2 maps. One map is like what you would think Legend of Zelda is. I think the other one's like a remix map.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. As in the Legend of Zelda Second Quest, dungeons are again completely different for Map 2. Consequently, BS Zelda is sometimes referred to as a third quest in reference to the Legend of Zelda's Second Quest. BS Zelda Map 2 could thus be considered the fourth quest, carrying on tradition initiated in the second quest where the dungeon map layout spelled Zelda, third quest layout spells Saint Giga, and fourth quest spells Nintendo. Because sure. But yeah, like this is, I think they kind of, supposedly they changed small bits of the story because you're not playing as Link.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's basically the Legend of Zelda story.
Right.
Although this apparently says it's set chronologically close in time to A Link to the Past, which I don't know how that's possible. But it's the Zelda timeline, so anything makes sense as long as you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the one we played through fully was the second one they did in 1997. Was the first broadcast of this. BS Zelda no Densetsu Ine Shie no Sekiban, or The Legend of Zelda Ancient Stone Tablets. This is basically a remix of Link to the Past.
Yes.
Where you do not play as Link. You play as a male or
a youth.
A youth that's a dude or a lady. Depends on whatever you want to choose. I think that was also tied to like one of the Satellaview games that like forced you to have a player avatar.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, essentially this is a sequel to A Link to the Past.
Yep.
Which is wild to think. Because it said 6 years after A Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
Link is gone.
Yep.
He is gone to do something else. Bad things are happening again. And then, like, Zelda basically spirits you away from the real world into the land of Hyrule. And he's like, hey, could you help us out? Do some stuff for us. It is basically a lot of Zelda and Agana talking to you. You know, one of the most important characters from A Link to the Past.
Okay, for context, this is the guy who hangs out in the cave in the desert area in the light world and basically has like one line to give you about the Book of Medora, and that's it. Like that's the only use for this guy.
And he is Sasha's brother.
Apparently. That I don't remember that being in the game, but now he is.
This is canon. This is the sequel to Link to the Past. I don't know what you're talking about. This is the most canon ever. So yeah, you go to Hyrule. You get a magic bee at first, and then you go around to doing dungeons and it's basically split up into 4 episodes again. You'll do like 2 dungeons per episode, and then you'll have some story stuff in between. You'll get items and everything. Has the 1 hour time limit and everything, where like the characters will be like, "Oh, you better hurry up and get stuff done. The time limit's running out. Make sure you've done all your stuff." There's like scoring and everything, depending on like how much you've completed, if you die or not, all that sort of stuff. It's real interesting. We did not play it with the voice acting because like that's a whole separate thing within the emulation of these Satellaview games that I don't understand. But you can play these regularly with like an English translation and everything that just has like a black bar at the bottom of the screen that like tells you like here's characters talking to you and be like stuff happens. Like a lot of it is just like Agata and then this fortune teller just talking back and forth to each other, and the fortune teller will just tell you stuff. Or Zelda will be like, "Hey, I heard you're gonna go to this dungeon. There's a boss there. Link told me about the strategy to fight that boss." Except you've already fought that boss like 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. I love that it sounds like whenever the fortune teller shows up, which we were like, oh man, he's gonna be a villain. But whenever he decides he's gonna talk, it sounds like the brother guy is just like so done with him
I
every
know.
single time.
You get to go like see them at one point, and they're just like hanging out together. He just every time he's like talking, he's just like, "What is it?"
And it's hilarious because it makes it sound like he's just like super far away from him when he's making these predictions, but
No, they're just standing next to each
he's
other.
literally standing right next to him. It's so funny.
Here is the plot of the ancient stone tablets. If you are curious, like I said, it's set 6 years after Link to the Past. The story begins when the character or avatar from the distant town whose name has been stolen,
Youth.
as you know, the youth, enters a mysterious-looking fortune teller's house that has appeared in the town, finding only a magical golden bee. The avatar follows after it. It enters the back of the house, where strong magic whisks the youth off to the land of Hyrule, where Princess Zelda's dreams have been troubled. Discovering the youth collapsed on the ground, Zelda and her aged companion Agna revive the child and discuss the recent and troubling premonitions that have felt concerning Ganon's return.
Did that say aged companion?
It does say aged companion. He is old.
Oh, that's good.
A few moments later, a soldier arrives and announces that Ganon's evil forces have returned. Agna and Zelda explain that Link has left the country and they ask the child to help obtain the 8 ancient stone tablets. It is believed that if the hero or heroine can obtain these tablets, the message in them will reveal an ancient secret capable of defending Hyrule from Ganon and his army. As the youth travels through Hyrule collecting items and stone tablets, support comes from afar by telepathic communications from Agna, the fortune teller, Princess Zelda, the Hyrulean soldier, and even the narrator of the game.
Oh, I forgot the Hyrulean soldier gets to talk sometimes.
Yeah, he just comes around and is like, hey, what's up?
What up?
As the hero fights through the various dungeons, the land of Hyrule lends its power to the child at certain preset points in the Zelda time. That controls the youth's access to the land. Agna and the fortune teller explain these matters to the youth, whom Zelda identifies as the Hero of Light, spoken of in legends. Thus, the Hero of Light sets out to collect the ancient stone tablets, traveling in the same Hyrule depicted in A Link to the Past. After collecting the tablets and drawing the Master Sword from its pedestal in the Lost Woods, the Hero of Light, along with Zelda, climbed the summit of Death Mountain to an ancient monument. Zelda translates the tablets using the Book of Medora, discovered in a basement of Link's house, and
Which we have no idea where there was a basement in Link's house.
also she's like, oh, I gotta translate this, and it's like it was us just like walking around, like, you done yet? You done yet?
What are we supposed to do?
The monument then cracks, revealing the silver arrow and sacred bow. This, Zelda says, is what the Hero of Light needs to defeat Ganon. Finally, a red portal opens up and reveals the way into the Dark World, where Ganon resides. The Hero of Light enters Ganon's tower and battles Ganon, defeating him with a silver arrow. After retreating back to Hyrule, Zelda reveals that although Link had sealed Ganon's body away forever in the Dark World by defeating him 6 years ago, Ganon's malicious essence had not been sealed. It was through this evil energy that the Hero of Light was pulled into Hyrule. The hero then returns the Master Sword to its resting place in the Lost Woods, leaves Zelda and Agna, and returns to the town whose name has been stolen in a flash of light.
So basically, she's like, Link didn't finish the job. You gotta do it.
I'm like, yeah, I can do this.
Random person whose name we don't know.
We also figured out this is just a Zelda isekai,
It is.
which is very weird to think.
That's what this is.
But yeah, like, I can't believe they just hid a Link to the Past sequel on a satellite add-on for the Super Famicom, and then, like the other Zelda game that they put out for the Satellaview, never did anything with them again.
Yep.
Like we talked about earlier, like there could be licensing issues with these things. But also, like, the way these games came about and like the technology behind them is maybe weird and hard to like redistribute them.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally a possibility. But like, if you wanted to just like put them out with just an English translation and just like kind of do them without the vocal tracks, like, I think you could do that, and like that would be satisfactory to people who would want to see these. Like, obviously it'd be cool to have like the vocal tracks, but like those are all done in Japanese. Who knows like the vocal quality for those, or like the audio quality for those and everything. Would you then have to go out and then redub it if you wanted to release it? Like, there's a whole lot of like weird variances and factors involved here that could make this very difficult. But like, it's so weird that like it feels like they've just like they did these for the Satellaview, and then we're just like, that's it, we're good. We don't need to do these anymore. It's like what these are cool.
Yeah.
I want to play a Super Famicom remake of The Legend of Zelda. I want to play Ancient Stone Tablets again. Because like Ancient Stone Tablets is very weird as well because like it's remixed versions of Link to the Past dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the dungeons are not the same order that you would imagine them in, or like the layout of them are not the same. So like that's something different as well. If you're like a big fan of Link to the Past, like you would want to be able to
Like
see
me.
you. Oh yeah, and you were probably like, oh, this is real interesting. Like these are the way these are laid out and everything. They're different, and like how you approach this game is different and everything with the time limits and all that sort of stuff, and going to different dungeons in different orders. Like it's a different way to experience A Link to the Past, which I think they do pretty successfully here. But yeah, like they did these and then they don't exist anymore. And also, with how stupid and dumb the Zelda timeline is, how is this game not a part of the minutia and the dumbness of the timeline? Like I had you like, I was like, are these in the timeline? Are these in the Historia or anything? And like the Historia didn't really have anything about them, and like it was the art book that was just like, hey, this was the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it mentioned that they existed. Like, I think it gave it like a sentence or two in Historia, but the art book was the one that actually gave a little bit more explanation.
Which seems wild because like they made this whole dumb timeline stuff, and then they're just like, oh, by the way, we made a Link to the Past sequel, but yeah, you don't need to know about that.
Yeah.
Seems so weird. Like, why would you do that? I mean, there's a sentence on this Wikipedia page that's like, there's fan debate of whether or not these should be considered canon or remakes or spin-off titles. I'm here to tell you that Ancient Stone Tablets should be canon. The Legend of Zelda is now an isekai series. That is the true canonical canon and timeline of The Legend of Zelda. It's only those two games. Those are the only two games that have timeline stuff. Well, and you can put Link Between Worlds as well because that is also adjacent to it.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the only games. Everything else, they're just regular games. No timelines.
Yep.
That's it. Except for Zelda and Zelda 2. Direct sequel.
Well, that is blatant that it's a direct sequel. Like they
Those are the only two little games that have timeline stuff. Everything else by itself. No other timelines.
Well, technically Ocarina of Majora.
No, other timelines.
They're literally
banned.
Literally, it's the same Link.
I mean, who's to say?
The game.
I don't know.
The game says it's the same Link. He's looking for Navi.
You can say whatever you want. I mean, literally, you can say whatever you want.
I'm right.
But okay, so like obviously, I was the one playing these.
Yeah.
What did you think of Ancient Stone Tablets as like someone who's played A Link to the Past a bunch of times and like as one of your favorite games?
I will say that the time limit stressed me out. And it was also like there was weird mini games that were timed that like one of them I had no idea how it worked.
Yeah.
But they opened up like with I think 45 minutes were passed. I'm like, that's kind of an odd thing to do. And like there was that one time that we were just wandering around and Zelda just showed up as like, I'm being chased. And I'm like, where did you come from? And it turns out that it was like a timed event for the game. So it's like, oh, okay, interesting. Like what happens if we didn't rescue her? So I mean it was odd in that sense, and that, like I said, it gives me anxiety to be timed. But it was cool
and
to
the
go
time
back
limit
through.
isn't that bad. If you're good at that game, it's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, fine. But it was cool to go back into that world and see it like shaken up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
As the youth.
The youth. Yeah, I knew like I knew this had like some story stuff, but I was not expecting it to be like as like involved and thorough as it was.
Yeah.
To be like, oh, this is a sequel to Link to the Past of all things.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's real interesting. I wish they did something with these, but like it's probably weird, and like it's probably something like Nintendo's like,
Mm.
because Nintendo's such a fun company. Um, I love the idea of appointment level video game style stuff like this. Like I know, like I think today in 2020, it's very hard to make it work. Like you still kind of see it at times, but mostly it's like in game events, like like a lot of like the Fortnite stuff kind of falls under this category. With like they're very like, oh, we were having this event, this very specific event for 2 hours, and that's it, or like their movie trailer, what stuff that they do and all that sort of stuff. Like that kind of is in a similar vein. And then like like there's all sorts of like just in game events, regardless of games in general. But like, I mean, I'm an old person, so like I like the idea of just like, hey, we're doing this thing at 9 o'clock on Friday. Come and be a part of it with all these other people, and then that's it. Like, I mean, I was a huge fan of 1 versus 100 on the Xbox 360, so like, of course, I would be into like this sort of stuff. Like it seems super cool, and like it's just a fun way to like kind of like make this community of people who are playing this game together, at just one time, and like that's it. But like I said, I don't know how well you could do that in 2020 when like this idea would have worked a lot better back in the mid 90s when like television was such a huge thing. Appointment television was like this concept that obviously permeated throughout the entire world. Whereas like, oh, this television show is on at 8 o'clock, everyone get around the TV and watch it. And like this is basically just aping that formula. But like 2020 television isn't really that big of a thing anymore. Appointment level television isn't really that big of a thing anymore outside of like sports.
Right.
Because everything is like just now on streaming stuff, and
or it can be recorded,
or just like you can just watch it whenever. You don't have to watch it with everyone to be a part of the conversation.
Right.
So like like I said, I don't know if like this kind of style would work today outside of like what other games do in terms of like events and stuff, but like it's still something that I think is really cool and something I wish still existed, but again, I don't think it would. Bring back 1 versus 100. That's what I'm saying. Every Xbox Series X and S should have 1 versus 100 installed on the console for day one, and then you get to play 1 versus 100 on Friday nights.
Hilarious.
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, that's these Satellaview Zelda games. They're really cool. They're really interesting. Like if you have the ability to check them out, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like 100% you should do that because like they're so bizarre and like it's not what you're expecting in terms of like playing a Zelda game. Like we didn't dive that far into like the original Legend of Zelda remake, but like we kind of got it. Kind of just gives you the gist of it.
Right.
But like Ancient Stone Tablets is really interesting. But yeah, Satellaview stuff I think is cool in general as well. So
experimental things are interesting in terms of game history, even if they're like a giant flop.
Yeah, totally. And if you're able to figure out like these do have the like they are, you can emulate these with the vocal tracks and everything. And I think Ancient Stone Tablets has like an English dub vocal track as well. So like you could go completely full into how like into emulating how these actually were.
That's wild.
So if you're able to do that, like, and you can figure that stuff out, like it's complicated to say the least.
Who dubbed it?
I think it was like fans.
Okay.
But I think you can also get like the original.
The Japanese dub.
The original Japanese track as well.
Yeah, I tried to find that on YouTube and I couldn't find it, but I also didn't look very hard.
Yeah. I think I remember there was someone in the Japanese dub for Ancient Stone Tablets that was like interesting. Or that did something.
Didn't we talk about that?
I'm pretty sure we talked about it, but now I don't remember.
Artemis. Sailor Moon, right? Wasn't somebody Artemis?
That sounds right. I gotta figure out which one.
Well, the good thing is you don't have many options.
The fortune teller was Artemis in Sailor Moon, OG Sailor Moon, and then also I think still does stuff. Yeah, it was in a show in 2018. Been in like the original Full Metal Alchemist. It's been in your favorite show, Dragon Ball.
What?
It's in My Hero Academia. It's like it's just in a bunch of stuff. And then this other person, it's got a stern Wikipedia page, just picture.
stern.
Very stern. Also in Dragon Ball,
Blech.
your favorite show.
Don't slander me like this.
And also was in Yakuza 4. So real cool.
All right.
Yeah. There you go. Who is that dude? Oh, that's Agana. The lady who did Zelda has been in stuff as well. There you go. That's the Satellaview Zelda games. They're cool. You should check them out if you have not played them. Highly, I would recommend it, especially if you're a fan of Zelda and the series and everything. Like, you're doing yourself a favor by checking these out because they're so interesting and everything.
They get the seal of approval from me, and I am a Link to the Past super fan.
Yes.
So.
More people need to talk about the Isekai sequel to Link to the Past. That's all I'm saying. When are we getting Ancient Stone Tablets Randomizer?
Man. Woof.
Imagine having to play an hour game, an episode, and it'd be randomized.
Oh my god.
That's
Woof.
fun. Anyway, yeah, that's that. You have some Otome to talk about.
Let's go to Italy now.
I feel like we've been in Italy.
We have been in Italy.
The past week, like last week we were in Italy. This week's Jared and I will watch. We're in Italy, or we weren't in Italy, but we still had some Italy stuff. Italy stuff.
Italy stuff.
And now here we are back again. Welcome to our Italian podcast, where all we do is talk about Italy. Italy.
Italy.
Italy. Excuse me.
So yeah, we are going to talk about, and I apologize in advance for me butchering things because I am not good at pronunciation.
I mean, you heard me have to pronounce a bunch of Italian names last week, so like it ain't easy.
So it's Piofiore, I think is how you pronounce it. Faded Memories. It just came out on the Switch in the US last month, I think.
It's been a while.
Well, not a while, but
Well, I mean, like it's not like it was like last week or something.
no. But I think it came out last month, like the beginning of October, maybe.
Like late September, early October. That sounds right.
Yeah. So as we have mentioned, it is set in Italy. It is set in the year 1925, and we are in. Do you? We are in a fictional town. Berlone. I don't know how you. This town is controlled by 3 different mafia organizations. So we have the Falzone, the Visconti, and the Laoshu. Very Italian.
Yes.
And so those 3 have their different districts, and then you have like a neutral zone in the middle of the town. And essentially they just run everything. So Falzone family has been at this for ages. Like they're the oldest of the groups. And their leadership is direct blood descendants. So you have Dante as the leader at the moment
From the Devil May Cry series.
He's one of our datables. His cousin Nicola Francesca is his right hand man. Also, blood related. It's important. Visconti split off from this because they're like, man, this whole leadership thing sucks. Like, you have to have their blood. I don't like that. So they just decided, okay, well, let's make our own. So they did. And then the Laoshu is a branch of the Chinese mafia, and they have now set up shop here as well. They are very well known for being violent.
A mafia being well known for violence? What?
So that's the setup here. We start our story with our main gal. Her name is Liliana, but they call her Lily. And she is an orphan who lives in the church and has been working with the church. She's not a member of she's not a sister or anything, but she just is there. And she has a weird birthmark, casually, um, that becomes important. So let's talk about why it's important. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, um, there are a couple routes that are actually canon routes. So it gets a little complicated. Uh, I started with Dante's, which is considered like one of the most canon routes. So I probably goofed. I should have gone with Nicola first, but I didn't. I was like, Dante, I like you. I'm gonna date you. So depending on what's happening in each route, she is whisked away by the mafia group. Whoosh. Um, and so the Falzone specifically want her because she is what they call the Key Maiden. And the Key Maiden is supposed to work with the descendant of the Falzone, and they can unlock the secret of the town. They're supposed to protect the secret of the town. Um, the Key Maiden is apparently selected by the stars by the church. I don't know how that works because she has the birthmark. I'm like, did she have the birthmark before and then she was picked? Like, did random people have this birthmark and they're like, you're the one now, and then 10 years later somebody else has it? Like, how does this work? I don't know. um Catholicism, I guess.
Yeah.
uh, um so the Falzone are the traditionalists, I guess is the best way to put this. They've been doing this for hundreds of years at this point, and they're considered the I forget how they word it, like the keepers of the tomb or the grave keepers, something like that. And Lily's like, that's a weird thing to call them. That's very strange. Um, on their particular routes, Nicola and Dante's, she is taken to the Falzone manor, the big house. And depending on how you're answering, you're going to go with either of the dudes. Nicola's is weird. I liked him a bit, but also I was like, I don't think that this romance is going to work. Because he is very, very dedicated to Dante and will basically do anything to help Dante. And his main goal in every single route is to free Dante from his obligation to this lifestyle. Um, and so I feel like, well, actually, in one of the bad ends that you get, she's just like, I don't know about this. Like, what's going on? And Nicola just like straight up shoots her. I think that's like on his route. So I don't buy the whole like he actually wants to romance me thing, because I think he's really just like whole hog into that I'm the right hand man thing,
Whole
you know?
hog.
Yep. So he's the underboss, I guess is the right way
The
to say it.
underboss.
The underboss. Um, so he's kind of like your smooth talker. He's a smooth operator, I guess. Um, his route is also the least important. Nothing happens in it that really matters. The thing that happens that's relevant, like it's actually, you know what? It's not even relevant. It comes up one other time in the entire story, and I think it's in the finale. But there's a cop in the town. What's his name? What's his name? Roberto De Feo. Who saw Lily once at church and like fell in love with her at first sight and is obsessed with her. And so Nicola's route's basically just like dealing with this guy who's a psycho. Um, it's pretty messed up. he's completely unhinged. Um, it should also be mentioned that each of these guys has a like the good end or how is they worded? I forget. Um, I wish I had my game right now, but I don't. So I'm gonna have to just try and remember. The good ending is one of them. That's like the middle best ending. There we go. So best ending, good ending, and then the tragic bad ending. Every single guy has one of those.
Which usually it's not wrong.
No, no. So in the best ending, Nicola does not kill Roberto. He actually detains him. Um, and you guys get to be together. Yay. Again, nothing plot relevant at all. In his tragic bad ending, dude goes completely psychopath and is like, okay, well, I don't want anyone to be around you, and I don't want anyone to look at you, and I don't want anyone to touch you. I'm just gonna lock you up in your room, and you're just gonna submit to me whenever I want it. I was like, ugh! Yuck! I don't like you. Go away. So I kind of expected to like this guy at first, and then after that I was just like, you know what? No, I don't like you.
You locked him away.
Basically, like I said, he's not really all that relevant. He's relevant in other routes. He's very relevant in other routes, but in his own, he's just not.
He's just there.
So you have to do these all in a specific order. The only two that are a toss up is you can either do Nicola's or you can do Dante's. It doesn't matter which order you do those, but then you have a specific order. So you have to do those two, then you do Yang, and then you do Orlok, and then you do Gilbert, and then you do the finale. I should have used different wording besides do. Whoops. Okay, so here's my question. Do we want to talk about the best route now, or do we want to save it?
That's up to you.
Okay. I'm going to talk about my least favorite route. We're going to build up to this good one. Yang's sucks. For one, I was getting so frustrated because legit, you get so many bad endings with this guy. Like, there's the regular bad endings that you get in Atome whenever you pick the wrong thing, but like this dude, like you say the wrong thing once and he just straight murders you every single time. And I'm like, dude, you have like 15 bad endings where the other guys have like 3. He's psycho. And it's wild because I've been looking at like, and this is gonna sound really embarrassing. I've been looking at the Atome like subreddit, and like he's the most popular character. I'm like, oh honey, all of you guys need therapy. All of you. That's terrifying. He's not good at all.
They clearly enjoyed the challenge of trying to get him.
I mean, that's the thing is that like he's the one that you have to put in a lot of work for.
Mm-hmm.
And for one, that's really irritating to me that he's just like bored all the time. And you have to make him not bored. And like, I don't really want to have to convince somebody that I'm interesting for them to love me. I think that's kind of terrible. The best thing that came out of this is that there are 2 twins, Lan and Faye. They're like 15-year-old twins that Yang saved at one point when they were back in China, and they just follow him around now, and they're like little mini assassins. That like to give you all kinds of foods. I was like, okay. But that's another thing about this game is that it's constantly talking about Italian food, and it's like giving you like vivid descriptions of the food. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so hungry every time I was playing this game. Oh, it was so frustrating. So yeah, he sucks. He sucks real bad. When you first get on his route, like I think Orlok takes you to the shoot, what did I say his group was called? Lao Shu. When he takes you to their organization's hideout, like the very first thing he does is just smooch you. That's the very first thing he does.
A bit forward.
I'm like, dude, what are you doing? That's very fast. So yeah, his route is essentially just like always keep him interested,
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise he's just bored. And he's also a very like bloodthirsty, cruel dude. Like he'll just murder people for no reason.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, obviously considering that like, he murdered me about 15 times. And he does all kinds of like weird stuff, like at one point, again, problematic, very problematic. The twins put her in like a Chinese style dress, and she's kind of like, I don't know about this, because it's a Land's dress, and she's 15, so she's smaller. So it's a very revealing outfit on her. And so she's walking around and she's like giving people food and all. And Yang comes in and immediately like grabs her and like rips the stuff off of her. And it's just like, no. And then, yeah. He always wants to bone.
You don't say.
Always. Like, the very first thing he does is he's like, okay, so you can stay in my room in my bed, or I could let you go into the room with all the other guys and we'll see what happens. It's like, dude, you're messed up. You are so messed up. His route also has a lot to do with drugs, because his group is big in drug peddling. Also, what they do, and this has been mentioned a couple times in the other routes, but it's kind of a minor like throw off line. They deal in human trafficking.
Oh, casually.
Yeah, they kidnap women from Italy and take them to China. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not good. You should maybe not do that.
The mafia does bad stuff.
Yeah, but the other ones don't do as bad of things.
I mean, they're not telling you they're doing the bad stuff.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, at one point, Nicola, like, rips a dude's fingernails off.
Ah!
Yeah.
What the f?
He also cuts an ear off.
Eh.
That's still messed up.
I would look, in terms of gross things that someone could do, cutting an ear off is a lot lower than peeling someone's fingernails off.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And so Nicola's always like, I don't want you to see that side of me. And it's like, but Yang just wants you to see everything. He's like, all right.
I'm an open book. Let me tell you about all the cocaine and heroin we just got.
Well, the whole plot line of his story is basically that he's mad about the opium wars. And so he's just like in Europe selling drugs to try and like corrupt Europe. I'm like, you realize that Italy wasn't involved with the opium wars, right? Like that's not the country you're looking for. But whatevs. You do you, Yang. He has some really funny moments. And I texted you at one point because I don't remember which ending it was with him. It might have actually, was it the good ending? I don't know. He murders you in one of them. And essentially what he does is you get taken by the Falzone family, and he comes to visit you on the balcony. He was like, oh, I love you and I'm here to see you and da 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 da. And this, I should preface this by saying that he catches her reading Romeo and Juliet at one point, and he's like, "Oh, you find this romantic?" And you're like, "Yeah." And he specifically says something like, "I won't be taking the poison." Um, so fast forward, and Yang comes to the mansion. She's like, "Yay, you're going to free me. This is exciting." Um, and then he stabs through her chest into Dante to kill him, and then says, "I told you I wasn't going to take the poison."
Hey, he wasn't wrong. He
I was
took the
like,
dagger.
"Dang, no." He uses I forget what the name of the swords are, but they're like a Chinese sword that's like curved at the end.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, stabs that through your chest and into Dante's.
Casually.
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, okay, interesting." Um, he then runs off into the woods, and at one point he's like,
Time to
"Oh,
become a mountain man.
I." He's like, "I keep thinking about her. Maybe that was a mistake to kill her. Whoops."
LOL. Oh well.
um, basically, this was just bad decisions. The route, like this man, totally just forces himself on you all the time, and is also just a murderous psychopath. She's like, "But I can tame him." Like, honey, no,
Can you?
you can't. You can't. Like in the like tragic bad endings, I guess sequel. They have sequels to the best endings and the sequels to the tragic bad endings. And in his tragic bad ending, he is in a different town and he sees a prostitute, hires her. They go into a room. She says something to him about like honey, I think, like the food, and was like, "Oh, hey, you want to use that?" And he just straight up kills her, and then just falls asleep in the bed.
I wanted plain Cheerios, not honey nut.
Like the dude is not okay. I don't like him
Oh, I
at
like the
all.
My Chemical Romance song.
um, we have after that we have Orlok. Orlok is a disciple of the church, which that's your big red flag right there. And Orlok, he's the white haired anime boy. He's got two different colored eyes. He's
Definitely going to survive.
everything's fine. Um, so he kind of works with all the groups as an informant, but also his main mission is just to protect Lily. He's younger than everybody else. I think he's like 18, and the rest of them are like well in their 20s. So
He's a baby.
He's the baby. And he takes a lot of hits basically. Like his route is just I'm getting beat up the route. Not Lily's getting beat up. He's getting beat up because of trying to protect her. And his is the weird route of like, I haven't had anybody who loved me, and I was an orphan, and I don't know, I don't even have a bed in my apartment. And oh man, I used to be from this part of town, but then I was adopted, and I really like this one particular dish, but I haven't had it. Oh man, you made this dish for me. I love you. That's basically how that route goes. The issue with Orlok is that he has a really massive amount of tragedy going on. So like I said, he was an orphan, in quotation marks. His mom died. He was taken in by the church. He was trained to be a disciple, which in this case basically makes him a church assassin.
Figures.
Yeah. And so, like I said, his mission is that he's got to protect her. He at one point he is ordered by the I think he's a bishop. What's is he a bishop? I don't remember what you are. It just says he's a member of the clergy. Um, von Roseburg. Roseburg. Yes. Um, he at one point orders Orlok to kill Lily. It's like God wills this to happen. He's like, what? That no, my mission's protect her. He's like, no. God says she has to die now. So
He's very fickle.
You should go kill her now. And you have two different choices here that you have to get through. Otherwise, he just listens and murders you. But essentially, he breaks off from the church because of love. He's like, I would be sad if I murdered you. I don't remember if it's this route or the main finale route, but anyway, you find out that von Roseburg is his dad. But since he's clergy and he took his vow, he's not allowed to have a child. So it would be quite the scandal. So instead, he found his son in the orphanage and just brought him up as a disciple. Go figure. And then, tells him to murder the woman that he's apparently in love with. Also, this one has the absolute worst tragic bad end. The absolute worst. It's so messed up. It is insanely messed up. In his tragic bad end, Orlok gets taken by the Falzone, and he is put in their dungeon, basically, that they have under the manor for some reason. So he's put there, and Lily is taken hostage, basically, and Dante's like, all right, you're mine now. At one point, she sneaks out and goes to try and see if she can free Orlok, and she's like, hi, I'm here to rescue you. He's like, oh, that'd be cool, except for they cut the tendons in my legs so that I can't walk anymore. Yep. So, that's messed up.
Got a dragon.
Dante comes in and he's like, oh, hey, you're not supposed to be here. What are you doing? You want to hang out with him? I can have you hang out with him. So she gets to hang out in the dungeon now. And she gets to be repeatedly, word I'm not going to say, by the Falzone guys. And also has...
assaulted, to say the least.
Yes. And she also has the tendons in her legs cut, so she cannot get away. So essentially, this assault is happening in front of Orlok, and nothing can be fixed. It's horrific. In his after story for that one, he kisses her for the first time and dies.
But
yep.
All right. Sure.
In his best ending, they run away to a different part of Europe. He falls.
They're like, we gotta get out of here.
He falls asleep on her shoulder. It's really cute.
And then dies.
No, he didn't die in that one. He's alive in that one. Then we'll talk about Gilbert Redford, the most Italian name ever. You ready to talk about some Gilbert?
I love Italian names that are very Italian.
God. So Gilbert, he is the leader of the Visconti, and he's kind of like your charismatic, everybody loves him type thing. He's very, very flashy. He wears an eye patch. He has an eye patch.
What if you put another eye patch on him?
Then he can't see.
I mean, that's not my problem.
So yeah, everybody in his area of town's like, you're the best. We love you. You're fantastic. Woo! his route is I'm gonna say the safest in every sense of the word.
I was
You
like,
don't
in what sense?
you don't die as much, that's for sure. But he genuinely is like straight up about liking you pretty early on. Um, and no one really dies in any of his routes.
He
Like
just got
you don't
teleported from
die.
like a different game and put it here.
Basically, like he's just a nice dude who runs a mafia. He also has the same voice actor as Impy, which is hilarious. Um, yeah, he's just like stupidly nice to everybody, except for when he stole my freaking ice cream. And I was like, get out of here. Ah.
And then you murdered him, and that was the bad ending.
um, yeah, he like really he pays attention to her. He like doesn't keep her in the dark on what's going on. He gets real happy at one point because you are asking him questions about his like cannon and ammunition and guns, including his Chicago typewriter. Which sure, I guess. Um, as indicated by the name, Gilbert Redford is Italian American. He he lived in Chicago,
Chicago.
and his dad was in the Chicago Mafia, and died. And then his mom brought him to Italy, and now he is here. He considers himself Italian and not American. And he is caught up in a what's the word I'm looking for? Fraudulent money, counterfeiting scheme. That he's been accused of bringing counterfeit American dollars into the town. And they're like, well, obviously it's you because you're the one who has American blood. And he's like, well, hold on. No, this isn't fair. Um, Also, the fake $10 bill in there is hilarious because it's got Andrew Jackson on it. I was like, they didn't even give me, like, that's so wrong. um, but he has a trial that he has to go through, and depending on your choices, the trial either goes well or it goes poorly. If it goes well, he gets off. Oh God, I shouldn't have said that word. Uh,
What a trial.
Because he has a lawyer slash his underboss, I guess, named Oliver Haas, and Oliver nails it, gets him off. Oh God,
Sure did.
I gotta stop talking. Oh no. So like his is basically like, all right, everything's fine. We get to be together. Like everything's happy. She like moves into his house permanently at one point. I think no, wait, she doesn't. She goes back to the church for a bit. And he's like, I am a very pious person. I am a very religious person. We're going to do this properly. And then she moves into his house. Which yeah, did not expect him to be the hyper religious one, but he's the hyper religious one. And I was like, oh, buddy.
Sure. I mean, he's from America, so.
Well, yeah, but this is Catholic Church.
Again.
Yeah, I guess. But like, he came across as more religious than the actual guy who works for the Catholic Church that's a dateable. And that's kind of so that was a knock off on him, but he was fine. Like I liked him. He was a likable person. I didn't have any issues with him. His tragic bad ending is basically just like he's found guilty, and he decides he's going to flee the country. And like Oliver decides he's going to give Lily the paperwork to go with him, and he's just like, no, I can't. I got to solve all this, then I'll come back for you, but no. And so like his tragic bad ending is just basically like he pieces out.
Tragic.
I mean, it's a lot less tragic than
I
Orlocks
mean, you're not wrong.
or getting stabbed
Just I gotta
or
go. Bye.
yeah, he just leaves. Just fine, I guess. Which brings me to my favorite route, which is Dante. Like I said, it was my favorite route, and it's the one that I did first. And
From the Devil May
so,
Cry series.
yes, I mean he is kind of like a silvery haired dude, so you know. Um, so let's talk about Dante. He is the leader of the Falzone. He is kind of the, like I said, canon route. He is the what is it, capo? Capo, is that the word?
That is a word.
Isn't that what they use in Golden Wind?
Yes.
Capo? Yeah, that's what they call him here, the
Okay.
capo. Um, and he took over the family pretty young because his dad was assassinated. Oh, by the way, his dad was assassinated by Orlok. Whoops.
Everything's connected.
Yep. So he kind of comes across as like a he's kind of like standoffish and he's intimidating. Um, but she also notices that like everybody cares about him. Like everybody in this house is just like he's the best. Which like you're in the mafia house. Like you're probably gonna say he's the best.
We have to say this or he'll kill us.
I will say that he, in several of the routes, you're assigned a bodyguard named Leo. Leo should have had a route because he is fantastic. He is such a good boy. But Dante assigns Leo to be your bodyguard, but also Leo keeps bringing you like gifts, like books and snacks, and eventually he brings you a kitten.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Wow, Leo, this is all really nice." And then eventually he's like, this wasn't me, but I'm not supposed to tell you who it was. But it was Dante. Oops. Um, and she had kind of figured it out at one point because she was talking about a book that she was reading, and he's like, "Oh, I've read that book, da 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 da," and she's like, "Oh, you've read that? That's kind of interesting," and realizes that he had sent the book to her, and yeah, it's anyway. He's a cutie patootie. Like, even though he is a boss, he's a very, very nice dude. Like, once you get to meet him and talk to him, other than the whole murdering thing, uh, he's got the whole thing of like secretly really like sweets, but doesn't want people to know it. So, like, sometimes he'll try and like drink a black coffee in front of people and just like trying not to throw up. And she's like, "I'll get you some sugar. It's fine." Um, she also is a she works better with him than she does with many of the others because in a lot of the other ones she just kind of like goes along with whatever, and she actually just like gets along with Dante a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Like she talks to him kind of on an equal ground. So this route is wild. Um, so at one point, the Falzone mansion manor is raided, and he's like, "Okay, well, this is bad because now they know that they can get in here." I think Yang is the one who invades it, which of course he does. Yang does everything bad in every single route. Um, like in Nicola's route, you're having to infiltrate Yang's hideout when he realizes like, "Oh God, I messed up and left Liliana, and now she's going to get kidnapped. This is terrible." So anyway, Dante's like, "Okay, we're going to leave safe house. We're gonna go there," and so the two of them just stay there together. It's like cute house sharing plot, including the whole like, "Oops, I actually came out mostly naked."
Uh-oh.
Oh no, everybody is kind of flustered by this. He's got a towel on. Things are also awkward at first because she is having feelings and doesn't really know what to do about it. and she thinks that he's just being nice to her because she's the key maiden, which finally we're getting back to the idea of the key maiden. It comes up in this route and basically this route only. Because it's the only route that is really relevant. Other than the other ones are trying to keep her away from the routes. But yeah, so she thinks that he's just being nice to her because she's the key maiden and that he doesn't actually care about her as a person. So they end up having a little chit chat, and she realizes like, oh, that's not the case. She also accidentally like cabadons him at one point, which is great. But their hideout is discovered, and they're given some tainted wine, and they pass out. Nicola goes missing, and Lily is taken captive. I don't remember how she gets free because it's been a while. But anyway, let's talk about what actually happens here. So, Dante once again is able to get her back. I don't remember how. Don't ask me. I don't remember. And he ends up going to a different, like, hotel safe house type thing. And there's a lot of pushback against the Falzone because everybody's like, well, they can't keep us safe, obviously. Like they're not doing a good job. Maybe we should like let one of these other mafia groups take over. And so public favor for them is at a low. Also at one point, should be mentioned that they have taken Faye, Yang's little 15-year-old twin guy. They took him hostage and at one point beheaded him and sent his head back to Yang.
Now we're getting into some mafia stuff.
Yeah, they sent his head back. And so they're like walking in the street at one point, Lily and Dante, and Lan, his twin sister, comes up and is like, yo, you murdered my brother. Not cool. And decides that she's going to slaughter Dante like on the spot. Also turns out that she is like drug enhanced, and so like he shoots her several times and she like keeps coming. Depending on how you've done in terms of choices, like somebody either is killed like a civilian or not. But they're helping the whole, they can't keep us safe. So anyway, they also find out that the church is deciding that they're going to rescind their protections for the Falzone family. He's like, what is going on? So he talks to Lily and was like, okay, we're going to try and figure out what's going on with this key maiden thing. I know that we need the key maiden and we need someone with the Falzone blood. And we have to go to this place. So I'm going to take you there. We're going to see if we can just unlock it somehow. So they go and they can't figure it out. And so they're kind of like, oh man, this sucks. Everything's really frustrating. We don't know what to do. They go back to the hotel. And at one point they like get all romantic and just bang. As you do. And the next morning when they wake up, Lily's like, oh, hey, my mark has changed colors. That's interesting. That can't be plot relevant at all.
Definitely not.
And they end up having to go back to where the little abandoned ruins type thing is. I don't remember why they go back there. I think it's because Yang tells them to. Anyway, Yang's there. And Yang is like straight up ready to murder everybody and ends up getting a good hit in on Dante that she's like, oh God, I think that's fatal. Orlok also gets like repeatedly stabbed. Like after he's dead, Yang just keeps stabbing him while he's on the ground. It's like, oh my God.
Truly making sure.
Yeah. So Dante and Lily work together, and he sneaks Lily a gun, and she shoots it in the air, which throws Yang off for a minute, and that's enough that Dante just shoots him in the chest, and he's like, well, guess I'll die then. So
As you do.
she's freaking out because Dante has this like super terrible wound and she's trying to figure out what to do about it. So she takes him into the ruins and she's like, huh, hold on a second. There's like water in this basin. Um, I can't, I can't have him drink it or anything, but I'm just gonna wipe his face with it.
That's
And
not
then
that is not proper medical advice.
it is not.
Do not do that if
Um,
someone gets shot or stabbed or whatever or gets injured in a bad way. Do not take them into the ruins and give them the ruin water.
well, in this case, it worked out. Um, because the ruin water is blessed water. Because the Key Maiden and Dante came together,
Literally.
literally, and they unlocked the body of Jesus Christ.
So what you're saying is that this game is basically the same plot as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure: Eyes of Heaven, but more horny.
Yes, that is
Okay.
exactly what I'm saying.
Just wanted to clarify that for everyone listening at home.
So, this little like immortal angel kid is creepy as crap. He comes up in several of these routes. Oh, I forgot an Orlock's route. He loses an arm, and this kid's like, "Oh, hey, I'll get you a new one."
It's pretty
And they
cool.
get him a little prosthetic arm. Um. Anyway, the kid comes up and is like, "So you guys were able to unlock it?" And she's like, "How did we do it?" And he's like, "Oh, you guys know."
You did it all right.
You know how you did it. And she's like, oh. So turns out the Falzone family has been protecting the remains of Jesus Christ since he died. And they're trying to keep it under wraps. That's why this town has church protection, while the Falzone family has church protection, because they're trying to prevent people from finding out that Jesus was a mortal person and not divine. So they to release the body of Jesus. Also, the holy water cured him. That's a lot to take in. And also, that was how I started this game. That was the first round I got.
How do you can't top that? Like that's enough for
You
you
can't!
for you to be just like, I'm good. I have seen everything I need to see from this game.
That's basically how, because I was playing through the rest of it, was like, nothing can top Dante. Like, that route was amazing. It was like, the dude is a nice dude. He's a cute guy. He gave me a cat. And then also, like, you bang for the body of Jesus Christ. You can't beat that. He's easily the best boy of this game.
Wow. Do you think
So,
they keep them wrapped up in little burritos like they do in JoJo
I don't know. I hope so.
that just float to you? Here's a burrito.
Here's a burrito.
Here's a Jesus burrito. Got it from Chipotle.
So Amelia, the little angel kid, is like, "So, are you going to use the newly freed Jesus Christ body to get back in the favor of the church?" And he's like, "No, I think we're gonna keep it here. We're gonna find another way to figure this out and make our town better, because this is weird." So everything's fine. They end up getting together. The town is fine. I don't remember how. After you for Jesus Christ, like,
Everything else is pretty just
everything
like
else
whatever.
is pretty like, and I've seen people question. They're like, this is 1925, and they're very religious. Would they really have premarital sex? I'm like, come on. Do you not think people boned like? Anyway,
Let me tell you, as someone who has
Yes?
studied literature from before the 20th century,
Mhm.
people were horny.
Really?
People have always been horny.
And like, it happened. You might not think it happened,
Hang
but
on,
it happened.
hang on. Keep talking.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, like, you legit can't top that. You cannot top
It's
that.
true. Look, if we all want to talk about the church,
Yeah.
people being horny,
Mm-hmm.
go read some John Donne poetry about how he wants to God. That is a legitimate thing, and he lived in the late 1500s.
Mm-hmm.
So people have always been horny.
It's true.
Don't
His
let weird 20th century propaganda tell you otherwise.
no, like people think that Victorians were like super oppressed and like didn't do any of the bone zone
I mean, they
stuff.
had to
I'm
get
like,
a lot of clothing off, so that was probably one thing that kind of hampered it. But
they did, but they were horny. Anyway, his tragic bed end was not too bad. She was in a coma, and he's just like sitting by her bed every day, like holding, trying to make her come back. Uh, honestly, pretty benign in comparison to some of the other ones.
whew.
Which, if he knew, then they have that holy water that they could access that could cure her coma. But there's also the creepy implications of like how would they unlock it if so anyway, Dante's great, which brings me to the last ending.
How is there more
um
endings after this?
because there's the finale ending,
Oh, right.
which includes one more romanceable and also like the ending to try and explain what all has been going on here. So there's a casino in the neutral zone, and the casino is normally where everybody meets up to have their like meetings of the three heads of the mafia groups. I don't know how you would make that plural. Anyway, um and so there's this creepy guy with like a mask and a really fancy attire who's like in charge of the casino. um is very like performative, and everybody's a little put off by him. I was also put off by him. He's weird. Um, so anyway, that all leads me to there's this guy that keeps showing up in the finale route that doesn't look anything like that guy. Just has shorter hair. Amazing. Also not a mask. He's not wearing a mask. And his name is Henri, and Henri is constantly going into the cemetery, and he says he's talking to someone important to him. Um, like I said, you can romance him, or you
If you
could just
want.
get the ending. But basically, he's been behind everything. Like he was behind the uh, um, counterfeiting scheme, and he's just basically trying to take down all the groups. The reason being that his sister was the previous key maiden, and so Dante's dad had brought her under his protection. The issue is that Dante's dad was in love with someone else. And so, like, this guy's sister kept thinking, oh, we're destined to be together. Like, God says we're supposed to be together because I'm the key maiden. Like, that's destiny. And they're trying to explain, like, no, like, that's not what that means. Like, we're tied together, but, like, not romantically tied together. So, anyway, Dante's mom is brought in, and they get married. At one point, the sister gets like super jealous and like pushes the mom down the stairs, which is crazy. Um, and she just loses touch with reality. Like she has a complete mental break and ends up committing suicide.
Yikes.
Yeah. And Henri's like, oh, there's no way she committed suicide. The mafia had to have something to do with it. Like, that's just how it has to be. Like, she wouldn't have done that. And one of the cops, Marco, was like, "No, I I saw her autopsy. Like, she suicide. That's what it was." Um, so Henri has had this whole like real messed up revenge plot going on for like a decade at this point, and is trying to bring down the whole town and bring down all the families and blah 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 blah. You can um you can romance him. Um, one thing that is very interesting about him that you have to read between the lines on it. But he was actually adopted by someone the um, in the Falzone family, like the extended family. And by reading between the lines, you realize that he doesn't like being touched. And the reason he doesn't like being touched is because he was also assaulted, but also beat repeatedly in that family, which would also be a reason that, like, hey, he has a grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and like, considering he was a kid. So he does not like being touched and freaks out if anybody touches him. Uh, at one at one point, he sets the casino on fire, and it's like, I'm just gonna die here. Bye. And Lily is like, nope, not happening. They end up finding like a secret exit, and they sit in this little like weird underground dungeony thing, and have a chat about like his past. And they end up running away to France, and they start like a church orphanage, and they have like three kids that they watch after, I think. He keeps having like horrible nightmares where he comes home and she's just like slaughtered and all the kids are slaughtered, which is wild. He works as a translator for a living to try and make money because he speaks and reads like 5 languages. Um, but he eventually, like, his romance ending ends with him like allowing you to touch him, which cool. Um, but yeah, the other ending, you don't romance him, and basically everybody's like, "Hey, this is bad. We should figure out how to deal with this guy." Basically, all the groups come together and take him down. Everybody is honky dory. Um, they realize that like he was the instigator and causing all the issues. They're like, okay, well, we'll just go back to how we were and run our own parts of the town. It's cool. Okay. um, yeah. So that's basically it. Uh, one thing that I neglected to mention that I should have is that there's a very good moment in Orlok's route that I was like, heck yes. Heck yes. Um, which she talks him down. It was like, heck no. But Orlok and Lily end up taking in this little like street kid named Luca. And Luca gets super sick. And they're trying to take care of him, and Lily's like, maybe God will grant us a miracle and save him. And Orlok's trying to take care of him, and Luca dies while Orlok's like watching over him. And at one point before Luca dies, he's scared because he's like, I don't know if I'm good enough that I'm going to go to heaven. And Orlok explains like, oh, I can do baptisms, or I don't know what Catholics do.
Yes.
And then he realizes like, oh man, I have very dirty hands because I've murdered a lot of people. Am I good enough to do this anymore? And she's like, yes, you can do it. You can do this. So he does, and kid dies. And he goes outside afterwards in like a trance, and then basically just starts like screaming at God and saying that like he doesn't actually exist because no like good being would do this. I was like, yeah. So he basically like loses religion for a bit. Not in the sense of the phrasing that like I'm getting angry, but like literally loses his religion.
He was in the corner, now he's in the spotlight.
Lily talks him down for that, which is sucky, but yeah, this game's wild. Considering that they included I will say that the interface is hot garbage because I couldn't find the extra stories for ages. I could not find them.
Right.
But when I did find them, there's a lot that leads up to the fan disc. So it's cool that they translated it because apparently that like is going to lead into that. I hope that we get the fan disc.
Mm.
Also, in one of the extra endings, we get to find out what Gilbert looks like under his eye patch. His Chicago Mafia dad hit him with like a bottle and destroyed his eye, and so he can't see out of it. He said that he's better shot if he just covers the eye. So in the extra story, they go to the Bone Zone, and he ends up taking off the eye patch. It's like, oh, it's your eye, and it's fine. Like it's scarred and like it's kind of like glassed over, but it's fine. He's got to do what makes him comfortable. Anyway, I just want to eat sweets with Dante and like hang out with a cat.
Go look at the body of Jesus.
You know, just chill, hang out with the body of Jesus. What a wild game.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
What do you think?
I don't know what to think. You get
I mean,
that one ending, and then like it's just like, why did they do other endings for this? Like, there's no point.
There's no point.
You've done the one, and that's it. There's no topping it.
Mm-mm. There's really not. Like, I don't understand how people don't think Dante's route's the best, because it's easily the best route. It's amazing. This has got to be one of the weirder Otome games that I've played in a while, though.
Which is saying something.
It is saying something. On that note, are you ready to do some ranking?
Well, I believe it is time once again, as Al pops into the document, to take a look at Al's official ranking of Otome.
Also, the art's really pretty. I want to say that.
Round of applause, everyone.
The boys are all really pretty. Okay, let's rank some things.
We have 19 games on the list. We are adding game number 20.
Wow, I played a lot of Otome.
The top 20 games of Otome will soon be here.
I think this is gonna be a very shocking one for me.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the.
This.
It's in the top. It's gonna be in the bottom quarter.
Oh my god.
That's what I'm guessing here. Al, let's do our due diligence here. I don't remember what the Italian.
Piofiore.
Italian. Is it better or worse than I Love You, Colonel Sanders, a finger-licking good dating simulator?
It is
Wow,
better.
I cannot believe it's worse. So let's just put it at number 20.
It is better.
Oh, boy. Is it better or worse than Amnesia?
Better.
Better or worse than Hakoki?
Better.
Better or worse than Love Letter from Thief X?
Better.
Wow, that's shocking. Better than Joestar Struck?
Yes, it's better.
Better than Psychedelica, The Ashen Hawk?
Yes.
Better than Hatoful Boyfriend, Holiday Star?
Yes.
Better than Bad Apple Wars?
Yes.
Better than Period Cube?
Yes.
Better than Psychedelica of the Black Butterfly?
Yes.
Ooh, top 10.
Yep.
Better than Color Cross Malice Unlimited?
Yes.
Better than Mystic Messenger?
Yes.
Better than Code Realize Wintertide Miracles?
Yes.
Better than Hatoful Boyfriend?
Yes.
Better than Mr. Love Queen's Choice?
I think that's where it's going to land after that one.
So number 6.
That's really high. I was not expecting it when I was thinking about this. I was like, oh, you know what? I really liked this game.
I'm kind of surprised because I thought it might crack the top 5 with the way you were like, oh, this could be surprising.
Well, I was thinking, I was like, is it better than Mr. Love? And I'm like, I don't know.
But those top 5 are pretty much just like the ridiculous of the ridiculous.
Right. They're going to be hard to break. And so like being top 6 is not bad.
Yeah, that's a solid entry.
Yeah. Do you want me to write it so you don't have to?
There you
Italy.
go.
No.
The country of Italy.
The country of Italy. I don't know why all Otome games are named like this. We have a new Otome game that I'm going to get this week called Cafe Enchante.
Please, if you have to pronounce it correctly, it is Cafe Enchanté.
Oh,
I'm
Enchanté.
guessing that's how they would want you to pronounce it.
Probably. It's like a cafe in Japan that also has like dudes that are like mythical beings, I think. I don't know. I don't know what
There was like an anime that did that recently, so.
Oh, interesting. I don't know what I'm getting myself into. Honestly, I didn't know what I was getting myself into when I played this one. I was like, oh man, mafia dudes,
And you
cool.
went into some weird places, all right.
Man, I did not expect. I cannot tell you how loud I was laughing when I realized that like to unlock the body of Jesus Christ.
That's a sentence you never thought you would have to say.
Right? You know what? Okay, you know what's canon? In my eyes, it is canon that these two did the do so they could unlock the body of Jesus Christ, which then leads into the JoJo game.
Perfect.
Because otherwise, how would you have the body of Jesus, you know? Same universe.
They didn't bone enough, so that's why it got split off into a bunch of different places and timelines.
One thing that is also interesting about this game, and you know, me being who I am, there's a lot of hints about like what's going on historically, because it's post World War One, since it's 1925, and they're talking about like world events and like what's happening with Germany at the moment. And they're talking about Mussolini and how he's cracking down on the mafia and like some of his policies. And I was like, oh no, oh God. So that was interesting that they like brought in some of those little things, you know?
Little historical accuracies.
Yeah. And even then, like, it's just kind of cool that you know, they would bother with putting in like what's happening politically in Europe.
Right.
So Nito Frito.
Nito Frito.
They also make like a small reference to Al Capone, which is interesting.
He's a dude.
Yes. He is in fact a dude.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I guess what year was Mussolini? He was like 3 years before, I think. So he like them being like saying he's doing relatively new things and changing it up like that would be accurate. Cuz he's a newbie. But also like yikes. Also them talking about Germany and like how everything's going to be fine with Germany. I'm like
About that.
yikes. Anyway, that's that game.
That is Italy the Atome. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. So if you'd like more from us, what, you were saying something?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I was just breathing.
Oh, okay. If you would like more from us, go to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool is where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Anime Checkup and Jared and Al Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/animecheckup. And buy our book, One Shining Moment of Critical Analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine on Amazon. And you can buy Al's book, Hot Tubs and Pac-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Also on Amazon.
Yes.
And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza. Get access to bonus episodes, unedited episodes of the podcast early. All sorts of fun stuff. Next week, we got a long podcast in front of us. Breathing down our neck.
Yeah, we do.
Because we got a long game to talk about. The end of a saga, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
As next week, we will be discussing The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. Let's hope it's not 4 hours long.
I mean, the last one was very long.
The last one was 3 hours long to coincide with it being the third game.
Yep.
So we'll see you then next week for a long episode.